Halstead Property, the real estate leader in video technology.
Welcome to our newest installment of Behind the Numbers Connecticut with Greg Heym. I'm your new co-host, Sarah Doe Osborne. Before we begin, we'd like to thank the thousands of viewers who made last quarter's show the most watched Connecticut video yet. Today, we'll cover the Fairfield County residential real estate market and how it fared over the fourth quarter of 2010. What a pleasure it is to come to you from the exclusive Bellhaven Association in sought-after Greenwich, Connecticut. This graceful Queen Anne Victorian home is one of the few large-scale original homes available. Nearly 10,000 square feet of living space, including 9 bedrooms and 6 baths. The residence has gone through extensive renovations over the course of the last 7 years and is exclusively represented by Christopher Finley, available by appointment only. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Chief Economist of Halstead Property, Greg Heym.
Thanks, Sarah Doe. Let's start by taking a look at the general overview of the Fairfield County housing market in the fourth quarter. Prices in our Connecticut report were mixed over the past year, as the average price rose for half of the areas we looked at and fell for the other half.
Where did you see the biggest pricing gains and steepest declines?
Well, the biggest price increases over the past year were in the Darien market, where the average price rose 37% due to an increased amount of high-end sales. The biggest price decline was in Wilton, where the average price fell 6% compared to the fourth quarter of 2009.
Before we break down each neighborhood, tell us what other numbers jumped out at you.
Well, we saw the number of sales fall in 5 of the 8 markets we surveyed compared to a year ago. However, New Canaan posted a healthy increase in sales with 11% more transactions than a year ago. Homes sold faster than a year ago in half of the areas that we looked at, led by a 27% decline in time on the market in Westport. However, it did take 28% longer to sell homes in Norwalk, the largest increase in time on the market for any area in our report.
As we soak in the beauty of this sun-filled kitchen, we move on to the neighborhoods and their performances. We'll start with where we are today, Greenwich, Connecticut.
Well, the number of sales at 99 was 10% lower than a busy fourth quarter a year ago in the Greenwich area. The average price fell 4% compared to a year ago, while the median price, which looks at the middle of the market, was 8% lower than the fourth quarter of 2009.
According to your numbers, what area saw the biggest increase in sales?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in New Canaan, we saw an 11% increase in activity compared to the fourth quarter of 2009, the largest pickup in activity in our report. Sales over $3 million, though, did decline, and that brought the average price 1% lower. The median price rose 11% in this market, as it measures the middle of the market and is not as impacted by high-end sales.
I understand Darien and Fairfield were 2 areas that saw price increases over the past year?
Yeah, despite a 28% decline in the number of sales in Darien, the average price was 37% higher than a year ago, as sales over $2 million accounted for 1/3 of all transactions, compared to just 20% in the fourth quarter of 2009. In Fairfield, the average price rose 6% over the past year to $675,000. The median price, however, dipped 2% to $485,000.
And now here we are in the grand scale dining room, highlighted by a cozy wood-burning fireplace. Let's touch briefly on the Norwalk and Stamford areas and what caught your eye there.
Well, both the average and median price rose in Norwalk, despite a 19% decline in the number of closings and a 28% increase in time on the market. At $571,000, the Norwalk average price was 7% higher than a year ago. In Stamford, the average price was unchanged, while the median price fell 5%. Sales were down 26% in Stamford, while time on the market rose 12%.
In Wilton and Westport, where Halstead offices have recently been upgraded, what activity did you see there?
Well, in Westport, homes took 27% less time to sell than a year ago, the sharpest decline in any area in our report in time on the market. The average price there was up 11% from the past year to $1.69 million. In Wilton, the average price fell 6%, while the median price was down slightly to $770,000. The number of sales was unchanged in Wilton, but time on the market did fall 22%.
Now on to the economy. What major factors played a role in the real estate market this past quarter?
Well, in New York City, we continue to see an expansion that's way ahead of schedule. After peaking at 10.5% at the end of 2009, the city's unemployment rate has fallen in 10 of the past 11 months. And the November rate of 9.1% was the lowest level in 18 months. Job growth is picking up with over 51,000 private sector jobs in the 12 months ending November, the best year-over-year gain in private sector jobs in the city since August of 2008.
Wow. And how about the local Connecticut economy?
Well, in the Bridgeport-Stamford labor market area, which includes all the towns in our report, unemployment fell to 8% in November. This is the third consecutive month the unemployment rate has fallen locally and remains lower than both the U.S. rates and the New York City rates. Job growth in this market has been fueled by state and local government, professional and business services, and in the education and healthcare fields.
On to our Ask the Economist section, where you, the viewer, can participate. Our question this quarter comes from Bill Winters, who asks, in your opinion, is the performance of Connecticut's economy and housing market as dependent on Wall Street as New York City is?
Well, there's no doubt that Wall Street, and particularly the high salaries that the workers make, have a great impact on the Connecticut economy and housing market, particularly here in Lower Fairfield County, where so many Wall Street workers live. However, in New York City, we must remember that even though they only account for less than 5% of all employees, they actually make over 20% of the income. So obviously the impact is much greater in New York City, but we can never discount the impact here in Fairfield County.
Well, that does it for the fourth quarter installment. I understand the next time we'll be unveiling our new website, halstead.com, so be sure to check back for that.
Well, that's our show. For my co-host, Sarah Doe Osborne, I'm Greg Heym. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next quarter.